Hey everyone, Brandon Jones here, and I want to talk to you about Horizon Zero Dawn. This is a game that I'm anticipating, I'm sure a lot of you are anticipating, but a game that I hadn't played until last week. I'd been to PSX and it was there, I'd been to E3 and it was there, I'd had a lot of opportunities to get my hands on Horizon Zero Dawn, but it was a game that I always knew that I was going to play and buy and enjoy, and I knew that game was just right up my alley. It's got towers, it's got a lot of things that I like to do in video games, but I never actually got a chance to play it. And last week, they had a preview event here in Los Angeles. I went, I sat down with Horizon Zero Dawn for 4 hours, and I'd like to share with you some stuff that you may or may not know about Horizon Zero Dawn, just to clear the air about what the game is, talk about specifically the things that I really enjoyed from it, and a couple things that I didn't. Horizon Zero Dawn is set in the far, far future, which you probably already know, but this is something that I appreciate about the game, and I think is a very interesting element, is the fact that this isn't just the apocalypse, this is the post-apocalypse, which is stuff that people have done before. Enslaved comes to mind, as far as creating an apocalyptic future that is past The Last of Us, that is not just cities that are in disrepair, it's cities that basically don't even exist anymore. But one of the reasons that excites me in an open world game is because you walk into a natural environment and at first it just looks like a forest or a jungle or a desert or a mountain. But then as you get closer to it and you start to pick out details, you realize that this used to be a city, this used to be a park, this used to be an airport, and I can see street signs, or I'll go into a subway, or I'll find something that is just buried underneath these piles of earth and trees and roots and leaves and everything, just trying to reclaim the planet. And that's very fun to look at stylistically. They had a art gallery as we walked into this demo area, and they had two pictures up, and one of them was a typical Midwestern Main Street town, and the other one was that Main Street town completely overgrown. Most of the buildings were gone. There were little grassy hills that were just literally like rolling over entire buildings. And it was neat to see that perspective, to understand this world that they wanted to create. And I think from my experience of actually going through the map, I think the farther you get into Horizon Zero Dawn, the more you start to discover these worlds that look more like the world that we're from, and so it starts to bring into focus a little clearer the picture of like what happened. That's another thing that I appreciate, and one of the things that I'm most excited about in this game is like what happened. Like I know a little bit more than I'm allowed to say. Actually, I saw some parts of the game that reveal a little bit about that question, but where do these robots come from? Who makes them? If it's a thing that makes them, who made that? Is this our fault? Is this something where, like, is this Terminator, where we made robots and then they took us over? Maybe aliens involved? How far into the future are we? Is there any way to figure that out? So there's lots of questions in this game, and I like that. I don't necessarily need to have all of them answered. I'm just curious about having a game that not only is going to reveal those answers to me when I go through and unlock cutscenes, but the world itself is going to introduce that. Every robot that I bump into is going to introduce that. Every environment that I walk in, be it natural or man-made or otherwise, I will appreciate, because that'll slowly start to reveal what's up with this story. Hopefully it's good. I don't know. At some point in the game that I skipped, I missed the story point, you get a staff that enables you to deprogram stuff. Later on, it's how you like hack doors and can access information about the world. But specifically, I like the idea, as I was talking about, it's really fun discovering new things in this game, new things that you can fight, and possibly new things that can help you. And, if you can turn a Strider into a mount, I wonder what you can do to deprogram other robots in the game. Apologies, I never actually got around to doing that, but that'll be a fun surprise, discovering new things, crazy things later in the game, and trying to hack them and see what that does. You fight humans in Horizon Zero Dawn, which we might have seen in trailers before. Apologies if you knew that, but I didn't really think about that, that there would be enemy tribes, and there would be renegade hunter people running around, and there would be lots of people that would want you dead if you're just kind of out in the world exploring. And so that was fun. Going into bases reminded me a lot of Far Cry Primal, the way the bases were built and the concept of going in and taking over a base. Again, this is a very Far Cry concept in general, and you'd get experience for that, and then you get to use that as a save point, and you could fast travel to those areas. Obviously, you would unlock quests because people in your tribe would move to that settlement. There are also animals, real animals that you can fight and eat and kill and hunt. And, this isn't Red Dead Redemption, but there's still, they've put such a focus on the robots that I didn't really think, like, yeah, there will be foxes and birds and turkeys and boar and things running around the environment. I'm sure there's different types. It'd be cool if they're like bears and stuff like that later in the game, but I didn't, come across any of that. But there's a lot of resource gathering in this game, and the resources that you get from anything living is like a fatty tissue that you can then use for potions and health and stuff like that. I appreciated that. This game emphasizes accuracy a lot, and so it's always fun to pick off a turkey if you see it flying around. Speaking of combat, so you got your bow, you have your ranged, you have lots of different ranged weapons. There's like fiery bombs that you can toss and stuff. There's also melee. You have 2 different melee attacks. They are assigned to the shoulder buttons, which people, fans of Dark Souls, will appreciate. But and then there's also a lot of stealth. There's the tall grass that you can hide in, and you can not only sneak up on people and get a one-shot there, but you can sneak up on some machines based on your stealth ranking and take them out as well. Obviously, the higher you level up that one specific part of your skill tree, the more you'll be able to do from stealth. There's different outfits, which I thought was fun. I only played the game for like 4 hours, but there were different options, obviously different armor levels, and they would affect things like speed and stealth. And weapons and outfits also had mods that you could attach that would give benefits, damage bonuses, elemental resistances, stuff like that. And you got your weapon wheel, which you can use in combat, which you can bring up really quickly. It was something that I recognized that, like a game like Far Cry, the more I understood exactly where my weapons were, the faster I could switch to them in combat, the faster I could change out what type of ammo that I was using, the faster that I could fashion new types of ammo on the fly, which I thought was fun. You can do that very fast from that menu. And so the actual acquisition and using of weapons in different combat scenarios was completely up to me to just get good at and get quicker at, and is set up very intuitively. So that's just kind of some basic information about Horizon Zero Dawn. Here's specifically the stuff that I appreciated that I wasn't necessarily focusing on before. The facial animation in Horizon Zero Dawn is good, and I appreciate that. It looks, I wouldn't go so far as to say realistic. I don't think we've, built that bridge over the Uncanny Valley just yet, but there definitely seems to be more of an emphasis on realistic expression of emotion and deciphering who's versus who in this environment, like not just creating slightly different video game characters, but I definitely felt a sense of a genuine human personality coming out of these people. The writing was good, but it was really mostly in the expression, specifically in the animation of their faces, and just little facial quirks that seemed like these characters were possibly based more on actors than, I don't recognize these people. That is always kind of unsettling for me whenever I discover a celebrity in a video game. There were just little details on their face that made them feel like real people, and after playing stuff like your regular story-based heavy RPGs, something like a Dragon Age or a Mass Effect, where people, or even a Skyrim, where people can be kind of rigid. I really liked seeing if people were frustrated, they looked frustrated. If they were angry, they looked angry. And there's a lot of people that you're going to talk to throughout all of Horizon Zero Dawn, and so all the people I talked to were very expressive, and I appreciated that. This game celebrates precision. If you can bullseye something, you will win every time. If there are some robots that if you hit them in the face, you one-shot them every time. And that's not always a easy thing to do because they're diving around and moving their heads independently, and you're a dumb human and you make mistakes. And so you won't always hit that mark, but it's really satisfying when you do. It's like hitting a home run. Not only that, but even when I would miss, I would hit a part of the body and that part would flash and basically recognize that this thing is built of all these different parts. So if you want to slow it down or you want to stop it from using a specific ability, which is really fun. It was fun being in a boss phase and moving on to a different part, and it's like, well, now it's going to do this attack and stop doing this attack. And it's not just doing that because you took out half of its health. It's doing that because you took the tanks off of its back, or you broke its tail off or whatever. And so it's really fun to have these different kind of segmented targets, and really being able to affect the pace of combat, and not every time. It's not like every single time I fight something, I'm going to try to do, a different thing to shake it up. I'm going to find the path of least resistance. I'm going to find the quickest way to take something down, and I'm going to do that every time because I want to absorb as much of this open world as possible. But the first time you encounter something, the first time you encounter a new enemy and it doesn't attack, you're like, oh, it spits fire. I didn't know it did that. Or like, oh, here come rockets. Okay, I didn't know it did that. And then trying to figure out what was it on it that did that, and how can I take out that one thing and potentially even use it against it. A lot of this is stuff, the first time we saw Horizon Zero Dawn, they talked about this. This was the demo of the first, our literally introduction to the game. So this is not new information, but it is something that is appreciated going into the game and seeing done in practice, and realizing that it's all about you focusing on specific parts that you cannot lock onto. You just have to shoot well, use the right item, and take things out. And speaking of items, there is a definite difficulty in the game, a definite hump that you have to get over as far as using the right types of items in the right situations. It's kind of like The Witcher, where, you know, you can level up to be really strong and then go after things, and as long as you don't get damaged and, you know, bring enough health potions, you'll be fine. But if you focus on using the right item at the right time, in the right way, it has a tremendous impact. So much so that there was one fight that I could not do, and I was instructed by the developers, and they were like, use this and then do this. And I was like, oh, okay. And I didn't have, I skipped some stuff in the story. They kind of pushed us ahead to show us the introduction to the game and then move us along to a point where we would have, you know, more skill points and more items and stuff like that, and get into the good stuff. And not only that, but the point where the map opens up. So they're like, if you want to just go as far as you can do that. If you want to just focus on side quests, you can do that. If you want to just naturally explore the world, go for it. And so I, you know, naturally explored the world and stumbled across a really tough boss fight. And they kind of instructed me that, like, okay, there are things that you can do that will help you a lot more in this. And that when I actually implemented was so gratifying to see these enemies just brought low and like, I can't, you know, you've really disabled me because you've focused on that one specific part and taken it out. Again, not something that's going to blow your mind the 50th time you do it, but discovering new enemies and learning that about them is fun. The world is huge, and I know we're like a broken record now with open world games. Like, they're all big, but this, based on what I was able to accomplish in 4 hours, granted I played through the beginning of the game, and I'm assuming would be even longer than that because I spent 4 hours with the game and I skipped some parts. So I probably got to like maybe the 7-8 hour mark of the actual game itself. And there was way more of that world to check out. And not only that, it's not just, you know, discovering the world, but as you discover new areas, as you climb and conquer giant giraffe walking robot towers, and you discover more elements in the area, you discover things you can hunt, treasures you can go get, side missions you can go on. And so I tried to do a little bit of everything, but there was a lot more to do. So it's a really big world. Also, they had all the TVs at the event lined up in a straight line along a wall. And so as I would look down at all of these televisions, everybody seemed to be doing something different. And so I appreciate that. Whenever I go to a preview event, it's one thing, you know, to see them just like, oh, I'm slightly ahead of that guy, and that person seems to be 30 seconds ahead of me. And it was fun to look over and be like, where's Greg Miller at? Like, I want to go over that area. That looks like fun. We talked about it being a far-off apocalypse. We talk about, you know, the Earth taking it over, all the questions that have to be answered. And I will end on that as far as the positivity is concerned, because, like I said, that is one thing, major thing that even after this, the 4-hour demo that I got, I still have more questions. There's still more that I want to know, not only just about the world, but about Aloy and about the tribes and how they were set up. And you meet people and they seem, you know, kind of like a cross between somebody you would meet in our world, obviously to communicate the story, but kind of in a Mad Max kind of way. They seem to be in a daze and really focused on different things that are really important to them. And so it's interesting to see what people value, what their religions are based on, what their lifestyles are like, and what's most important to them, and who's your friend and who's not. That's the good stuff of Horizon Zero Dawn. I want to talk about a couple of things that made me a little bit concerned. One, there's a lot of chatter in this game. Lots of people talking, lots of noise, and Aloy specifically, the lead character, talks a lot. And I don't know if that's just something that they want to communicate her character early in the story, but you compare something like Tomb Raider, where Lara talks to herself, but I got a sense that was kind of more of a survival, you know, I'm talking to myself to keep myself going and to prevent myself from going insane, because I'm just by myself and I'm just, you know, at odds against like the entire world. Whereas like Aloy's got friends. Aloy's, you know, this is the world that she lives in, and so she just has something to say about everything. And I don't know if there's a way to turn that off or if that slows down later on in the game, but that got a little annoying and seemed more in the service of explaining things to me, the gamer, than realistically me being around a person who's actually saying that to themselves. It's like, that sounds like an inner monologue. That doesn't sound like something that just riding on horseback she would just say to herself out loud. So that seemed a little weird, and I wish there wasn't a lot of that in the game. Fair warning, there's a lot of harvesting in this game. I know Ian Hink first saw the HUD and was instantly tuned out because of how it was like, you need this many things to build this, and you need these components to upgrade this weapon to this level, and you have mods you can attach to this. And so if you don't like harvesting stuff, if you're not a fan of games like Don't Starve or Far Cry Primal, this might not be the game for you. Whenever I was on horseback or robot back and I'd be running around, I would definitely not like hop off to go harvest stuff. But whenever I was walking around and I saw something, I'd be like, yeah, I need more, weapon shards to upgrade stuff. Or yeah, sure, I'll get more tree branches to build arrows out of. And I enjoy that. I enjoy acquiring the assets that I receive in the game. I like the tactile feeling of that. It is quick to harvest stuff. It doesn't take forever, but there is a lot of that. There's a lot of building of items and upgrading stuff. And so if that seems kind of tedious to you, if you don't appreciate doing that stuff in an RPG or action adventure game, be forewarned that there is plenty of that in the game. So I am sold. That is the verdict now from me. That is based on 4 hours playing with the game. I will be reviewing it. It comes out on February 28th, so look forward to that and more coverage from Easy Allies. But those are my initial impressions of Horizon Zero Dawn. Thank you for hanging out. I'll talk to you soon.